In the 2004 General Social Survey, which was given to a random sample of adult Americans, a researcher asked from time to time, most people discuss important matters with other people. Looking back over the past 6 months, who are the people with whom you discuss important matters with? And then the interviewer, they recorded how many names or initials the person mentioned. So you might want to ask yourself, how many people would you name, right? And do you think that men and women differ with regard to how many names they tend to mention? So just think about that. That's what we're going to be studying here in this activity. So first we ask, is this observational study or an experiment? So you may want to pause this video and answer these questions A through C, and then compare with the answers. So first, this is an observational study because the researchers did not put people into treatment groups, right? They just had a random sample of people, ask them questions. Let's think about the variables here. Well, we've got our explanatory variables, the gender, right? That is categorical binary. That kind of takes our adult Americans and puts them into two groups, male or female. And then the response variable is the number of names that they mention, right? That would be a quantitative variable. So we're thinking about whether men or women tend to tend to mention more names than the other. So our null hypothesis would be that there's no difference, that the number of names that men answer on average is the same as the number of names women answer on average. So that would be mu male equals mu female. That's our null hypothesis. And our alternative hypothesis, so without looking at the data, I'm not really sure which way the data would tend to go. So I'm just going to say the alternative hypothesis would be that they're not equal to each other. And of course, that's the intuitive way of thinking about the null and alternative hypothesis. But really what we're going to input into our guru is the difference between the means. The null hypothesis would be that their difference is 0, so they're the same. The alternative hypothesis would be that the difference is not 0. They're not the same. Okay, so the 2 sample z-test that we did in topic 21, that doesn't apply here because we're talking about a quantitative variable with means, not a proportion, right? Also, the 1 sample t-test from topic 20, that doesn't apply here either because I'm trying to compare 2 means, not just testing a hypothesis for 1 mean, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to input this data into our guru, and we'll look at the stats there, okay? So let me sort of show you how to do that. I've already got an input here, but the way that we do that, so we go to data, and under data import, you'll go to create a new table. All right, now when I do this, I will have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to have, according to my table here, I've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as possible numbers of, friends that people mentioned. So that would be here, my variables here along the these column labels. Okay, that column label, I'm going to call it num friends. Okay, and then over here I'm going to have the difference between the males and the females. So this one would be male. And the next, I'm going to add a row underneath. That would be female. I will call that row label there gender, okay? And then inside of these boxes, under variable name here, I'm going to put the word count because this is going to be like how many is in each there, okay? So here for variable 1, that'll be 0. For the next variable will be 1 friend, or you got to give these variables all name 2 friends, 3 friends, 4 friends, 5 friends, and 6 friends. Okay, now I can start entering in the information from my table. 196, 135, 108, 142, 40, and 33. And now we'll put in the data for the females. We've got 201, 146, 155, 132, 86, 56, and 37. Okay, now I have all of that information saved in this table. Let me call this table number of friends. Number of friends. Okay, and I'll save it. Now that data set is saved, okay, and we can go ahead and look at the summary statistics. Now we're going to go back and look at the summary statistics, okay? Okay, so what I got was there were 654 men, 813 women that responded to the survey. Here's the mean for each of those and the standard deviation, okay? And then our 5-number summary over here as well. So first question, these numbers, are these parameters or statistics? Well, these are going to be statistics because they refer to the sample. And I'd like to make an inference about the whole population, but these numbers are statistics. Let's compare the 2 bar plots. Okay, we're going to go do that on our guru. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go down to plots. And in the book, it says to create your histogram, but we're going to do a bar plot here because that allows me to compare 2 things. So I am going to look at my data set, number of friends. Factor 1 would be gender. That's how I'm going to distinguish these 2. And then factor 2 will be number of friends. And now we do have a frequency. We call them counts. So that's why I'm using this bar plot because it'll allow me to do frequencies. All right, let me just take a look at what we've got here. All right, so comparing these 2, I've got, for the blue is female, red is male. I should probably switch that. Right, so the way to switch that, and again, it's just gender norms, but I don't know, we're all kind of conditioned that way. So I'll go into level editor, select the gender factor, and then if I select female, I can go ahead and choose whatever color I want here. So I don't know. And select male and select whatever color you'd like to represent the men. And again, I'm just going with gender norms here. Could be whatever you want. But okay, so if we're looking at the blue for the men and the pink for the female, just take a look at it and think about what do you notice about these 2 distributions. You can pause the video, just think about that, write down your observations. And the question that we're asking is it possible to obtain sample means this far apart, 1.861 compared to 2.089, if the population means actually were equal? So that's the question that we're going to be asking. And this gets at significance testing. Like, we're going to use a significance test to find out, well, how unlikely would that be? And if it's very unlikely, then I can conclude that, oh yeah, the population means probably are different. Okay, so in part I will calculate the test statistic. We can do this once by hand, but in reality, we're going to be using our guru to do this. But here's how you calculate it. You take the difference between the 2 means, divide by the square root of the first standard deviation squared over its sample size, plus the second standard deviation squared over its sample size. So if you plug this into your calculator, you will get the negative 2.45. That is our sample or observed t-statistic, okay? Now what we're going to do is use table 3 in the back of the book. So again, we're just doing this all by hand. We'll use degrees of freedom to be the smaller of 654 minus 1 or 813 minus 1. That should be a 1 there. I don't know why it's a 2. Anyways, we'll look at that. And, you know, they're both pretty small. So I'm looking at 653. And look at page, it's like T5 in your book here. And what you're going to do is you're going to find all the way down at degrees of freedom. We've got degrees of freedom 653, so we're going to use 500 because it doesn't have 53 exactly. It goes from like 500 to infinity. So we'll look at that row, 500, and we'll go all the way across until we see a t-value that's around 2.45, okay? So here I've got 2.334. Let me show you in your book. There. I've got 2.334, which is right here, and 2.586. So my t-value is somewhere in between those. So if I go all the way up here and look at the corresponding area to the right, that is the p-value that we're looking for. Okay. So again, I've got my t-stat, negative 2.45, is in between negative 2.586 and negative 2.334 on the table, which means that my p-value, to be the area to the right and also the area to the left, will be in between those two times those two p-values, 0.005 and 0.01, okay? So that tells me that my p-value is in between 0.01 and 0.02. And if we go to our guru and we plug all of this in, I would get a p-value of 0.014. Let's actually go ahead and do that. And you'll see 0.014, it is in between 0.01 and 0.02, right? Let's go ahead and do that together. So I'm just going to use the summary statistics. Let's kind of make these things smaller. Go to analytics and analysis. We're going to do mean inference 1 and 2 population. So first I need to input all of my summary stats. So my males, for the males, my sample mean, I'm going to have to go all the way back and forth. So I'm going to look at it in the book. My sample mean was 1.861. And my sample standard deviation for the men was 1.777. I don't have a population standard deviation, right? My sample size here was 654. And now let's do the same thing. I'll label this the female. Sample mean there was 2.089, and the sample standard deviation was 1.760. Sample size was 813. So now I have all of that summary data in there. Now I'm going to click over here to population 1 minus 2. And this will allow me to do a test of hypothesis and confidence intervals. So first thing, I'm just going to click on test of hypothesis. And I will put in my alternative hypothesis, which is that the two, if I subtract the two means, it is not equal to 0. And I need to click on the t-statistic here. The significance level, I don't actually, like I could put this in or not. That's for our guru to tell you what the result is. But really we'll just look at the p-value and then determine for ourselves. So it doesn't really matter. I'm going to ignore that for now. Okay, so notice here under observed t-stat, that's our t-value. And off here to the right, I get p-value 0.014284. So about 0.014 is what I get. Okay, and which is consistent with what we got when we did it by hand, right? Okay, so that's our p-value, 0.014. What does that tell us? What conclusions can we make? I would pause the video and try to answer these questions K through N in your book, and then compare with the answers. So first, the what does that p-value mean? Okay, that p-value is the